Sébastien Loeb doesn't need an introduction to most motorsports fans. This man has dominated the World Rally Championship like no one else, winning it a record 9 times on the trot from 2004 until 2012. He's the winningest driver too, with 80 wins, and has the most stage wins, and the list goes on and on and on. Not only that, but he's also won in World Touring Cars, Rallycross, Rally Raid, Extreme E, and even has the X Games gold medal to his name. If you follow motorsports, you would have heard his name before. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of his, but you can't deny this man is an absolute legend. When Solido announced a 1/18th diecast version of Loeb's M-Sport Ford Puma Rally 1 car from the 2022 Rallye Monte-Carlo, I was really excited. This of course was the venue of his last WRC win, for now at least. And now finally it's here, so let's have an in-depth look at it. The WRC entered a new era in 2022 with the introduction of the hybrid Rally 1 cars. The season traditionally kicked off at the Rallye Monte-Carlo, its 90th edition already. One of the entries was the almost 48-year-old Sébastien Loeb, who had just finished second in the Dakar Rally a week earlier. He would compete with M-Sport Ford for the first time in the brand new Puma Rally 1 car, racing in selected rounds. Of course, he would enter the Rallye Monte-Carlo, a venue he had won 7 times before, 8 if you count his controversial disqualification back in 2002. Loeb, however, hadn't ran full-time in the WRC for a whole decade, only running sporadically in between his other commitments. His previous 2 part-time seasons with Hyundai only netted 2 podium places, and it seemed that time had finally caught up with the Frenchman. When Loeb signed for M-Sport Ford to do a few selected rounds in the 2022 season, it looked like this would be another season too long for the Alsatian. Partnered by his new co-driver Isabelle Galmiche, Loeb started off well at the Monte. This of course is, as I mentioned, a rally where he always excels, and on the tricky snow-ice tarmac roads, Loeb was in the mix for the win. His main rival this round would prove to be his fellow countryman, another legendary Seb, 8-time World Rally champion, Sébastien Ogier in his Toyota. Both Sebs swapped the lead during the first 2 days, but in the end Ogier started to pull away a bit from Loeb. A puncture for the Toyota man in the penultimate stage, however, gave the lead back to Loeb, and this time the older of the 2 Sebs kept it all the way until the end. Loeb thus cemented his place as the most successful rally driver ever by adding an 80th WRC win to his resume. Not only that, but he also became the oldest driver to win a WRC event. His new co-driver Isabelle Galmiche, a mathematics teacher in her day job, also became the first female navigator to win since Fabrizia Pons in 1997. Loeb continued his part-time program with M-Sport Ford in 2022, entering 3 more rallies. He didn't get any more wins, but on his last rally in Greece he was on course for the win, holding a healthy lead. Unfortunately, his Ford's alternator failed, and that was that. Loeb hasn't competed in the WRC anymore, at least at the time of recording this video. In a way, it's quite fitting his last hurrah came at the most prestigious rally of them all, the one he loved so much and won 8 times in his career, the Rallye Monte-Carlo. French brand Solido announced a 1/18 diecast version of Loeb's Ford early on. Of course, this one would be based on the Rallye Monte-Carlo. They also released a camo test version from the 2021 Goodwood Festival of Speed, which looks pretty cool as well, I think. It's not exactly the same as the Monte version, as the test camo car doesn't have the light bars on the hood. To be honest, I actually prefer the model without the extra lights, but sadly they are not removable on the Monte car. Rival brand IXO have also released a Monte version of Loeb's car. That model looks pretty nice too, but IXO have made a few mistakes on this car. The main one is the overall shape, and especially the back of the car. The car seems too long and a bit too low, and the back of the car looks to be a bit too big. I much prefer the look of the Solido. The Solido model also has steering functionality and opening doors, and this allows for a better view inside the car. The IXO version in comparison is a sealed body model. Other brands like TSM have also announced a version of this car. This model will feature finer details like photo edge body clamps. It will however also be a sealed body model and cost a whole lot more than the Solido. The Solido is the cheapest of the available options, closely followed by the XO. The model then comes in a typical Solido branded box. This is the packaging they use for all their motorsports models, or as they call it, the competition line. The box is remarkably smaller than the ones they use for the F1 models, which is logical if you compare the size of the cars. Now, it's a windowed box with two smaller ones on the sides. On the back then there is some history of the Solido brand. And on the bottom you'll have all the licensing stuff. The model then is set on a small base with a bit of model info on it. A plastic mold is keeping the model in place. A small bag with the mirrors and antennas is added too, and these aren't spare parts, they're actually for you to put on the model yourself. Presentation wise, this packaging doesn't have too much value, I would think. The plastic mold, although removable, ruins it anyways, but I can say the packaging is something special. So let's first start by highlighting some of the lesser parts of this model car. This part will be nice and short as I haven't encountered too many mistakes, to be honest. The most noticeable one is the exhaust of the car. It kinda sticks out a bit too much from the rear bumper, I think. Solido also forgot to add the number 19 on the back window here in front of the rear spoiler. I also think the reinforcement bar of the roll cage here in the side window is a bit too big. It should be a bit smaller and more refined, like on the XO model for example. Another small point I want to raise, and this is not very noticeable, but I think the wheels are ever so slightly too big. The ones on the XO model are much smaller in comparison. Now I do think the Solido wheels are more accurate still, but just a tad too big in my opinion. I then also think it's a bit of a shame the model doesn't have an opening bonnet. It does have opening doors, so it would have been cool to be able to see the engine as well. Another small thing are the light bars on the hood. I'm not really a fan of the look of it, and it's a shame they are stuck to the hood and not a removable option. The inside of the cockpit then is also not very detailed, and this of course is a budget model, but the lack of detailing on the small dash behind the steering wheel and on the middle console is a bit disappointing. It kinda defeats the purpose of having opening doors if the interior is not going to be something worth looking at. Finally then on the roof, this number 19 decal here is wrong. It should be another one of this gap decal like on this side of the roof scoop. So those were the negatives. Let's now have a look at all the positives this model has to offer. First of all, there's the overall look of it. I think it looks amazing. The livery looks super cool with these electrified lines all over the car. The Red Bull logo is implemented nicely and the bull actually has a bit of a metallic undertone. The purple gradient on the car makes it stand out and looks very dramatic. The decals used on the model are very nice and clear. I don't see any issues in that regard. The shape of the car also looks very cool and aggressive with the big splitter at the front and the huge rear wing on the back. The wheel arches add to the dramatic look. And the back of the car looks very cool, I think, with this radiator and then the diffuser underneath. The air scoops on the side look nice too and don't have a mesh, contrary to the XO model. The wheels of the car, although slightly too big in my opinion, look great nevertheless. The small M-Sport and Ford logos in the middle of the rim look great. The brake disc and Brembo branded calipers are visible through the spokes, although I think the calipers should actually be copper colored instead of grey, and the discs should be a bit darker too. The tires then look good too, very good actually. I like that the sidewall is textured with these lines on it. The Pirelli branding looks really nice and the addition of the extra markings adds to the realism. Inside of the model then I criticized the dashboard, but the steering wheel is contradictively actually quite detailed. It has some nice decals on it, and I also like these golden colored paddles behind it. This small list here on the door card is also a very nice touch. So the interior of the model is actually both detailed and not detailed at the same time. And then of course there is the price. At around 55 euro, this is a good price for a model of this level of detail. Compared to the XO, it fares much better. I haven't seen the TSM model yet in the flesh, but for almost 4 times the price, it's got to be an absolute gem to beat the price-quality balance this Solido model strikes. So for me, this Solido model is near perfect. There are small things that could be improved, but given the model only costs 55 euro, I won't complain. I actually think you get a lot of bang for your buck. There are the more accurate proportions, the nice wheels, the opening doors, the more detailed interior. This model almost has it all compared to the more expensive alternatives. So if you are a rally collector or a huge Ford or Sébastien Loeb fan, this model can be missing from your collection. And now I would like to ask you, are you also a fan of the WRC or Sébastien Loeb in particular? And what is your opinion of this Solido model? How does it compare to the XO and TSM models according to you? Let me know in the comments down below. So yeah, there's nothing left for me to do than to thank you a lot for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this kind of reviews. Check out the other content as well. Follow me on other socials like Facebook and Instagram, and I hope to see you again for the next video. Take care and bye bye.